The mk1 Audi R8 is the cheapest supercar out there, so we'll have a look at what makes them so great and why you should maybe get one at some point. Let's start with talking about drivability, because R8s are actually really easy to drive. They handle exceptionally well as they are mid-engine, mostly built out of aluminum and are all-wheel drive, so they are super stable. But funny enough, they don't actually use quattro all-wheel drive, unlike most other Audis. Instead, they get the mainly rear-wheel drive system from Lamborghini that sends about 70 to 85% of the power to the rear wheels, depending on traction. That way, you just get that extra bit of safety and accelerate faster. But the car still feels playful, so the actual driving experience is awesome. You can either have loads of fun ripping your R8 around or just relax in comfort and luxury, as they do both perfectly. A big reason for that is the suspension setup. They came standard with double wishbone suspension, which is pretty good of course, but Audi also offered magnetic ride on them. That one was a very popular option as it allows you to choose between comfort and sportiness at the press of a button. Though there also is a big problem with that magnetic suspension, but more on that soon. Being so easy to drive is also why these cars actually get some hate in the car community. There really are people thinking that they are too easy to drive to be a supercar, but I personally really like that ease about them a lot. Do you agree? I mean, the first gen R8 was made to be usable and even comes with the option to get a 6-speed manual transmission. That makes driving them pretty much impossible for a surprisingly large amount of people. So now seems less easy to drive them, I guess. But of course, they also come with 6-speed semi-automatics, which are called R8, so you can still shift it manually with the shift knob or the flappy pedals, which still is a lot of fun. But of course, less engaging than a manual. And since 2012, the R8 was replaced by the S-Tronic, which is a 7-speed dual-clutch transmission. So these cars literally have more transmission than engine options. That's kind of crazy actually. When the Audi R8 was introduced in 2007, it only came with a 4.2 liter naturally aspirated V8, putting out 420 horsepower at 7800 RPM. By the way, it just goes up to 8200, so you really have to beat it to get all of the power. That power then gets you from 0 to 100 or 62 miles an hour in 4.6 seconds and to a 300 km an hour or 186 miles per hour top speed. I know that's not even that good for today's standards, but they still are quick. So if you need your R8 to be faster for some reason, take the 5.2 liter V10. Those were launched in 2009 and produce 525 horsepower at 8000 RPM. At least those go to 8400, so you really gotta rev them high. With all of that extra power, they take you from 0 to 100 or 62 in 3.9 seconds. And the top speed is 316 km an hour or 196 miles per hour. So they are a good bit faster, but they of course also sound a lot better. There also is a V10 Plus and an R8 GT with 550 and 560 horsepower. They accelerate in 3.5 and 3.6 seconds, but are really expensive. So we'll kind of ignore them in this video. The thing is though, Audi built these cars as the everyday supercar. So how bad is the gas mileage with these big engines? Surprisingly enough, not too bad. The V8s use about 14 to 16 liters in the city, which is like 16 to 18 miles per gallon, and they use 9 to 11 on the highways, so they get about 21 to 24 miles per gallon. The V10s, having more displacement, use of course a little bit more. So they use about 18 to 20 liters in the city, which gets you like 13 to 15 miles per gallon, and on the highway they take 11 to 13 liters, so they get 17 to 20 miles per gallon. I'm honestly sorry to bother you with so many numbers, but they really are important to some people. But something I'm really sure you care about is the space you get in an Audi R8, and it's really quite good. Being mid-engine, it of course just has 2 seats, and those are really comfortable but still hold you tight when you take corners a little bit faster. The interior also looks great in general and is of top quality, though the gauges for example look like in any other Audi of their time, so from 2006 to 2015. So it's a great place to be in, but in some places, like the gauges I just mentioned, it doesn't feel that special if you know other Audis. Something that would be very special to me though, would be of course to own an R8, but also you subscribing to the channel, because that way I know which videos you like the most. But let's get back inside of the R8, where you can find a decent amount of luggage space. You get this kind of weird shelf thing behind the seats, which is great to store backpacks and stuff like that. Then you also get small door pockets and some storage in the center console. Basically all you need. And to go on trips or shopping, the R8 has a big enough trunk to bring your necessary stuff along. It's of course still a compromise, but it should be just enough, most of the time at least. so definitely is enough to daily drive it. And an Audi R8 can already be used for about 40k in Germany and like 55 to 60k in the US. Yes, this still is a lot of money, and you only get the V8 for it. But you get a lot of car for the money, as they started at like 110k when they were new, and with options they went up to like 150k. That of course doesn't mean you should get one as soon as you have the money, because we get to maintenance in a minute. Just be patient. But right away, if you want a lower mileage example, so with like 100,000 kilometers or 60,000 miles, they cost you about 45 to 50k in Germany, but still 55 to 60k in the US. Somehow, most of the US ones I saw don't have too many miles on them. And just by the way, if you want to get a manual one, they cost like 5k more both in Germany and the US. As I mentioned a while ago, the V10s are more expensive, which is kind of obvious. So they start at like 60k in Germany, but go for about 70 to 80k in the US. And yet again, that's a lot of money, but they costed 150 to 200k new. For anyone that sucks at math, that's a lot less. But if you want to get a less high mileage V10, they are like 65k in Germany and stay at 70 to 80k in the US. Sadly, you should be ready to spend some more than just the buying price on these cars, because now we're getting to the painful part, which is repairs and maintenance. To calm you down right away, the R8 is generally quite reliable and might be the most reliable supercar you can buy. Though if something goes wrong, it's expensive. I mean, I just mentioned there were like 150k new, so the repair bills are based off of that price. So the most common issues on them are the following. If it's optioned for the suspension system, the magnetic shocks are known to fail, which I teased quite a while ago, like if you remember that. And it costs like 6 to 9k to replace them. That can just be a nightmare, as it can happen at any time, even on low mileage cars. So aftermarket coilovers are very popular on R8, because spending 1 to 2k on those is way cheaper. Another problem with a lot of Volkswagen and Audi cars in general is that they suffer from the AC compressors failing. And on the V8 R8, that even is an engine out job, so quite expensive. And because the compressor sits somewhere else on the V10, the engine can stay in. Something that can happen to both of the engines is some carbon buildup, which basically results in a loss of power. But you should be able to clean that with some additives for under 50 bucks or something like that, maybe a bit more. In the forum about these cars, I read that it might help to just rev a bit higher so the carbon gets burnt off, but I can't verify that because I have no idea. And that little issue is also why you should maybe consider to just get better fuel right away, but that can lead to very high fuel cost. I mean, depending on your driving style, it can already be quite high, so that can really hurt a lot. And finally, if you get the manual, you might need to replace the clutch at some time, which might cost you another grand. The only other expenses you should think about are tax and insurance, which can be rather high, and of course maintenance like oil changes. So the first gen Audi R8 is really an awesome car that looks crazy, is fast, fun, comfy and practical while still being reliable. But do you like them? Just comment down below. Because I personally love them and still think that they're kind of underrated, even though a lot of YouTubers get them as like the entry-level supercar. So it would be incredible to own one at some point. Maybe it's gonna happen, who knows. But if you want to learn something about another way cheaper Audi that still is incredibly cool, check out this video right here. So anyways, see you next time.